What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY and the overall market. I'm also going to break down some big pieces of data that are coming out, which are going to be affecting Tesla as well. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer is very soon, in just a couple of weeks. Anyways, now let's talk about the market. So as far as Tesla's going, this is attempting to rebound a bit. Do be careful though, considering there is this gap all the way down here near 244. And even if we do get a small dip from there, as long as we try to base near we are, there could be at least a technical balance that could be coming. That depends on the election results and other factors like that. So I want to talk more about that in just a couple of minutes. Just know that today is election day. The election is going to be the biggest catalyst affecting the markets for the time being. Also know that at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we basically have the S&P Global Composite PMI coming out. So look for some volatility then. And then look for a bigger move at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, since we have the ISM Services report for employment, new orders, and prices. So get ready for all of that, guys. There's going to be some interesting volatility with all this data coming out, and we'll see how this ends up affecting the markets moving forward. But the most important thing is going to be the new orders. That is going to give us more insights on what's happening with data for the future and inflationary pressures. So watch and see what happens with the ISM services data, and we'll see how things end up going. As far as the election goes, that is going to be tonight, guys, after the market closes. Millions of Americans are going to be voting for who they deem to be more fit for president. And then we also have other things going on with the Senate and the House. So it's going to be very, very important. Whoever wins, hopefully the decision comes out tonight. Sometimes it is delayed a bit because of other factors, but hopefully by the time the decision comes out, it'll give us more insights on what's about to come, at least for other factors. And then what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Excuse me, is the stock market is going to see a very, very big reaction. Are we going to see a big pump or dump? I'll talk about that a little bit later on. As far as earnings goes, we had Palantir announcing earnings. They actually beat on EPS and revenue, and they had strong guidance for the full year of 2024, which is why the share price went up. Now, for today, we have very minor earnings for the morning. Then after the market closes, we have Super Micro, so just keep that in mind. As far as other things go, don't forget that all eyes are on the election. That is, once again, what we're going to be watching for tonight. Besides that, we're seeing some new things that are going on involving Boeing, which is not too crazy. And right now, things are just continuing to, kind of be centered around the elections. So we'll be watching to see how it ends up going. Besides that, there is some news that the Tesla bulls are breaking down what's happening with this whole election. Well, like I said in my video from yesterday, once again, each of the candidates have their own pros and cons, at least for the EV market as a whole. But Elon Musk is in favor of one candidate, and that is going to lead to a big move if that one candidate wins to the upside. If it's the opposite, and if Harris wins, then things could shift just temporarily. There could be a downside move for Tesla coming if that were to be the case, just temporarily. But then later on, even if Harris is president of Tesla, the whole market will continue to run eventually, right? So you have to keep that in mind. It's going to be a mixed market. I went over this yesterday. Like if Trump wins, we're going to see Bitcoin and Tesla fly initially alongside other stocks out there. Other departments could be a little bit slower, such as like Google and some tech stocks. With Harris, we're going to see other stocks like Google try to push, and some EV stocks could actually try to push because of the incentives and other factors like that. But then specifically, Bitcoin and Tesla will be dipping most likely dipping if we do get a Harris victory, just to start things off. But then later on, they will run again. So that's just based off initial policy, the initial reaction. Things will shift at least moving forward. Now, Tesla is also offering Giga Shanghai Tour incentives. So for those who are uh, basically buying new vehicles, they're basically announcing that they're going to be allowing for these very, very nice tours for some winners out there. So very, very cool stuff in my opinion. I think that this does incentivize a lot more growth. Basically, people that order a new Tesla car through Tesla's official replacement service, basically, they're going to be having the opportunity to bring their friends, or they'll have the opportunity to win a chance to bring their friends to the Shanghai Super Factory, and they're going to be looking for, free hotel accommodations and factors like that. So, just wanted to call that out, guys. That is what's happening at least thus far. For other factors out there, let's now just talk about what's happening with the share prices. So, as far as Tesla goes, If we break past 249, we're looking for a push back up for 252, not to mention 255. If we lose support right over here around 245, we're looking for a dip back down to fill this gap to 243.5. So I presume what's going to likely happen is today we're going to see some sideways price action, a lot of chop, and we might see a small dip to fill this gap. It might dip just a little bit, but then we should be looking for a nice bounce later on as time goes on, and we might see Tesla attempts to rebound. So look for some choppy price action, a small dip to about 243.5, then a rebound back up to 248 as the most likely move. It's also possible Tesla tries to push a lot more later on to get back up to 255, but right now it's not necessarily confirmed, so you have to give this a little bit more time. Today, look for some chop and a little bit of a dip, possibly. Look for a big reaction at 10 a.m. to see if we get a bounce or not. That depends on how things end up moving, but the main move is going to be after the election. We'll see if that causes a pump or not as well. As far as SPY goes, SPY is just kind of consolidating right now. It is going to dip a little bit, guys, so be ready and prepared for a test of 569 all over again. 569 to 568 could be tested, then a bounce back up as you remain range bound. That's most likely what's going to be in our case. So look for a dip on SPY, a little bit of a dip towards our 200 EMA, maybe below that, then a bounce back up, and then a lot of sideways price action before we get a big reaction after the election. The 4 hour is showing that this might attempt to bounce maybe after the election, but it's not guaranteed until we see some new developments. So give this the time it needs. However, I expect a little bit of a dip and some sideways price action for now on SPY before we see a potential bounce attempt. So we'll see how things end up going. As far as ES goes, it's the same thing. We are trying to rebound on the 4 hour. It might kind of consolidate around 57.40 before it tries to bounce for 57.70. So keep that in mind. For Nvidia is also just kind of consolidating right over here. Look for an attempt for 138 and then move back down to 135. A lot of sideways price action for now. I do expect it to dip a little bit to about the 135 area before it tries to bounce again. Lots of sideways price action until the election. Bitcoin's also going to likely see a lot of sideways price action. Look for a push for 69,200 or a little bit above that to where there's some balances. But whether or not we get a big bounce depends on different factors. If we get a Trump victory, this is going to likely start flying. If not, there's going to be an initial dip before it tries to fly later on in the upcoming months. For NQ, this is going to try to push for basically 20,200, then come back down, just continue to trade sideways for now. But then the election could cause a big, bounce or a dump. We'll just have to wait and see on that. For the QQQ, we're going to look for an attempt to rebound. It could be looking for an attempt to get up to 489 before it starts dipping back down for a lot of sideways price action between 484 and 489. I think it might dip a little bit, then try to rebound and just continue to trade sideways in this range around 488. So look for a dip closer to the 485 area, then a bounce back up to 488 and just some sideways price action. But then later on, I do see an attempt for it to try to push back up towards where these imbalances happen to be, as the most likely case. Maybe the election causes a bounce, so we'll just have to see about that. Apple's also basing right over here. As long as we don't lose 220, this does look like it's going to want to bounce to about 224. So we'll see about that. For the IWM Russell 2000, we are going to likely dip back down for the 218.5 area, a little bit closer to the 218s before it tries to bounce again. We'll look at our big range between 218 and 220. So look for a little bit of a dip to the 218s and a bounce and give this the time it needs. For Coinbase is looking a little bit more bullish on the 4 hour time frame. Going to be looking for an attempt to get up to 190. But it also depends on the election, but this does look like it wants to bounce nonetheless as the most likely technical move. Amazon's holding support right here around 194. We called that out. So if 194 holds, we're going to be looking for an attempt to get back up to 198. And if we lose 194, we're looking for a dip back down to 191. As we're holding support, this could attempt to curl and push back up for 198. So we'll see how things end up going. Meta is holding its 200 EMA at 559. We also have resistance at 569. We could be testing 559 and trying to rebound for 565. So we'll see how things end up going, but there's likely going to be a lot of sideways price action. For Microsoft, we have support to watch for around 406 and the resistance at 412. We might be pushing for 412 and eventually 414. So look for an attempt to push on this. And Google is also trading kind of sideways. We're looking for basically 172 and 170s are range right now. So it's going to likely be range bound for now until we get our election results. With that being said, guys, expect some volatility coming to the markets at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 30 minutes after market open. But just know this, that the bigger volatility is going to come after the election. We might see a little dip on Tesla for attempts to bounce again. A lot of sideways range-bound price action, but then there's going to be a big move once we get the election results. I thank you for listening. I'll be back in a couple of hours for another update. Until then, have a great day. Get ready for the election, and peace out.